And declare the meeting open at 9:32. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Quandamooka people who are the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet, and I'd like to pay respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to any other Indigenous Australians who may be here this morning. Just a quick reminder, for the last time from me, councillors, I'd like to remind you that this meeting is being recorded in audio, video, as well as being live streamed online. You're reminded that parliamentary privilege does not extend to this chamber as it does for state and federal parliamentarians, and so you're reminded to be cognisant of any comments which you may make during the course of this meeting. I'd also like to remind you to use your microphone when speaking, and for any councillors or officers who are attending virtually, to please use the mute button when not speaking. In the event of an evacuation, I'd ask you to remain calm, follow my lead out the door through the exit at Bloomfield Street. We have some public in the gallery today, so just want to remind those in the gallery that under our Standing Orders 8.4, all members of the public present at a meeting must not, without the prior approval of the chairperson, make any audio or video recordings or take any photographs. We ask you to remain quiet and do not disrupt the meeting in any way. Not bring into the meeting any signs, placards or items that may cause a hazard or interfere with any person present. We ask you to be suitably dressed and turn all mobile devices to silent mode and leave the meeting to take any calls. I have a responsibility as chairperson to warn a member of the public present at a meeting who's not complying with any of these requirements, that I may, with or without such warning, require the person to leave the meeting and not return for such period as the chairperson decides, and that may include future meetings. And being my last meeting, I've never had to do it before, so please don't do it today. Look, we do have a leave of absence today, councillors, as I understand. We need a mover and seconder to allow Councillor Adelia Berridge a leave of absence. Have I got a mover and seconder? Move Councillor Boglari, seconded Councillor Bishop. Those in favour? Oh, I'll allow a question, but I'd prefer just to get to the vote. Question, Councillor Tolty?
I just wonder, as Councillor Berridge has been seen campaigning, attending pre-polls, handing out how to vote cards, attending public meetings in the evenings and so forth since the last meeting, has she indicated that she is now well enough to attend, or has her health certificate from the 2nd of February been updated in any way?
I'll ask
any further information provided?
General Counsel to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, there's no change to the medical certificate that covers this period.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take the vote. Those in favour? Those against? That's not carried. So those in favour, I'll just do the split. Councillor Boglari, Councillor Hewlett, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Bishop. Those against? Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Golay, Councillor Edwards, Councillor Tolty, Councillor Mackenzie, Councillor Williams. So that leave of absence has not been granted. With that, and I can't see him in the room, maybe he's helping. We have our devotional segment, councillors. Oh, there you are. You're hiding. Sorry. I didn't think you'd miss this one, Pete. I'd like to invite Pastor Peter Grieve of C3 Redland Bay Church, a member of our Ministers' Fellowship, to lead us in a brief devotional segment. Thanks, Peter.
Fantastic. How you doing? Mayor Karen, great to see you, ladies and gentlemen. I've got a short devotion. Thank you for allowing us to do this. I'm talking about collaborations. In Colossians 3:13-14, it says, "Bear with each other, forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." I just want to say, over the years, because it's your last day, the collaboration as a community organisation, and many community organisations have had the collaboration between council and the groups that are out there. Thank you very, very much. I bought you some flowers and everything to celebrate your last day, but I just really...
It's not my last day, it's my last general meeting.
Yeah, but for me it's my last day. Okay. Because I really appreciate it. Look, and you know, some of the things we've experienced with your input, I know, from suicides to deaths and unpleasant stuff, you know, the stuff that's being done not only by yourself but the council in general. Thank you very much. And that's what the scripture's talking about. It's talking about, let's shoulder up, and let's bear with one another, and let's help our community. So God bless you, and all the very best. You want me to pray? Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this team here today. Lord, with the challenges and the opportunities that are ahead, I just pray your favour, your wisdom will rest on each and every one of them. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you all. Thanks, ladies. Have a good meeting.
Our next item is condolences. Councillor Bishop, you've advised you'd like to provide some condolences this morning.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everybody. I'd just like to take a moment to speak about the recent passing of a much-loved member of our community in Thornside, Ian Kelkey, as he was known, or Grizz to his family. He was born on the 13th of October 1937 near the property that his great-grandfather, Edward John Kelk, founded in Lindham around 1860. The property was called Lindermere after their home in Lincolnshire, England. Lindham is the Latin name for Lincoln, and their entrance to the home was at where the Lindham train station now stands. Ian was the eldest son and a proud local who attended schools in Hammett. He was a prefect at Brisbane State High School, where he achieved great academic success, sporting accomplishment, and was forever part of the fabric of education, of sport, outdoor education and learning in Queensland. He was a great lover of heritage and history and a great fan of the Willard homestead and proud of the work that Council is doing in that space. He won a scholarship to attend the University of Queensland, where he studied as a maths and science teacher. He was a foundation teacher at Coorparoo State High School. He moved to Valentine Road in Birkdale around 1963, which was family home for many years and home to the canoes from the Wynnum Redlands Canoe Club for many decades, until he helped them find a shed and a space to set up their establishment. He taught and engaged with some of the most extraordinary luminaries in our region's history at Kelvin Grove and Kedron Teachers College. He was with peers like acclaimed author, environmentalist and campaigner Judith Wright and her shadow sister, proud Quantum Walker woman Udjuru Noonuckle, Kath Walker. Ian and other innovative educators would regularly encourage new forms of learning. They would go over to the island and sit around the campfire with young students and talk about caring for country, traditional ways of connecting to the land, sea and sky. Students and teachers would gather with Udjuru and elders and bring Aboriginal culture to life in the 1970s, a great pioneer. Some of those people were very touched by his lessons that they remembered years after his at his memorial. He also encouraged study tours to the Solomon Islands, and that was a great cultural exchange for many people while he was working at the Cannon Hill Anglican College. He was a great mentor there. He has many children and grandchildren from 3 marriages, and his funeral was filled with outrageous stories of a true Aussie larrikin who loved his family passionately and was greatly respected by all in return. For 30 years, more than that, he was the massive driving force behind the Wynnum Redlands Canoe Club, of which I'm the patron, and that's when I first met Kelkey. And he realised that I was a Wynnum boy, also from Brisbane State High School. He had a quick way of working out where you were from, what you were about, and then getting you motivated to do things that you didn't realise you needed to do. One of those things was to work with the members of the Canoe Club who were not being listened to when there were some wrecks in Tingalpa Creek. So Margaret and Ellie contacted myself, and then I reached out to State Member Don Brown, and we went for a paddle and saw some of the dangerous wrecks that were causing problems for youth in the area and also a hazard for navigation. Together with a growing band of folk, including Trop Water, South East Queensland Catchments, the Recreational Boating Council of Queensland and others, we created a state e-petition, conducted radio interviews, newspaper articles, and that resulted in Maritime Safety Queensland, Department of Education and Science, partnering with Redland City Council to remove 13 wrecks and abandoned vessels from Tingalpa Creek. Over 2 Clean Up Australia days, Ozfish partnered with Canoe Club, the Wynnum Redlands Canoe Club, to remove tons of landside debris, sunken pontoons, broken jetties, an amazing effort. Now it's a statewide program called the War on Wrecks, and they've removed over 1,000 vessels from Queensland rivers, creeks and waterways. But behind the scenes, Kelky just got on with other projects. That was his way. He was a motivator, humble and true. He always kept people focused on local issues that bind us together, and he reminded us there's no such person as somebody else. He always said, if you want something done, roll up your sleeves and invite others to help. He was surrounded by hundreds of mates all the time, and a few stuck by him at the end. He was one of the most inspirational people I've ever met, said one friend. Another said, Ian was a friend and mentor to every young person who ever came to the club. When he had his cancer diagnosis a few years ago, a mate asked, hey, Kelky, is there anything I can do to help? He paused, remembered his 80th birthday cake his family had given him, which was a Viking theme, and he said, I want a Viking funeral. So the Canoe Club members have worked over the last few years to build a replica of the boat that he won the Murray River Marathon in 2000 with his mate Tony. Ian would be at the front of this boat called Jerry, and Tony would be at the back. And in 2000, they set the Murray River Marathon in Geriatrics, their boat. And this replica boat is being turned into a Viking. It's got a prow and a stern. It's got an ornate paddle. It's in its homage to the Solomon Islands. It's got an outrigger. It's a bit of a Frankenstein of a vessel, but that's going to be part of a ceremony that they will have in a few weeks' time. Kelky also helped me to return an original Kath Walker artwork to the North Stradbroke Island Historical Museum, and it was proudly displayed as part of the Udjuru collection. He bought that in the 1970s and wanted it returned. He was also a very close friend with a man he called Bill Robbie, happened to be Australia's foremost landscape artist, William Robinson, who lived at Birkdale for many years and did a famous series of paintings called Birkdale Series of farmyard chickens, goats, ducks, pigs, tin sheds and the famous bug-eyed cows. So he was painting similar scenes to what Kelky lived on Valentine Road. Gail Austin also collaborated with the Canoe Club to create the Brisbane Valley Classic, and he really did change the lives of a lot of people. He taught me a lot about Thornside and the dynamic way that it works as an ecological area. He'll be very much missed. He sadly passed away after being cared for by professionals and family out at Crow's Nest on the 8th of February 2024. He wanted a simple San Franciscan ceremony at his beloved St. George Anglican Church in Thornside, where he taught music classes, and he was farewelled and serenaded by renditions of John Williamson's True Blue, Timey Kangaroo Down Sport by Rolf Harris. And his truly humble and appropriate wicker casket was carried to the hearse under an arbour of 24 paddles held aloft in memory of this man by the Wynnum Redlands Canoe Club members. It was an honour to have him ask me to speak at the funeral, and on behalf of Wynnum Redlands Canoe Club and our community, I just pay respect to his family and friends, and we mourn the loss of a great man. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bishop. There is one other recognition of achievement, actually two. As you know, last meeting we had the opportunity to recognise our Australia Day Honours list. Unfortunately, one of those candidates didn't have their suburb listed for our team to pick up, but we have so far contacted that person, and today we would like to acknowledge Denisha Duff. So another great Redlander on our Redlands coast, and as I said, was named on the 2024 Australia Day Honours list. As you have heard many times in this chamber over the last 4 years, these accolades are given to individuals who regularly go above and beyond for others and consistently perform to the very highest standard within their chosen field. Being named on the honours list is without a doubt one of the greatest accolades an Australian can receive. So, you would all be familiar with the name Denisha Duff. She was awarded the Medal of Order of Australia for outstanding service to various community organisations, and we are very blessed to have people like Denisha living in our community and contributing in ways that help our city thrive. Denisha has dedicated many years of her life to public service and helping others. She does so not for the recognition, but simply because she wants to make a difference. Her contributions, dedication and commitment to Redlands Coast and wider society are truly inspiring. She currently serves as a Chief Operating Officer within the Institute for Urban Indigenous Health and is the Director and Chair of STARS Foundation, which provides support programs and mentoring to young Indigenous girls and young women. Her other active roles include adjunct associate professor with the Centre for Indigenous Australian Education and Research at Edith Cowan University, and Director of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Communications and Consulting Business Mode Black. She served as a board director of the Metro South Hospital and Health Service in 2016 and was a council member with the Australian Institute for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies between 2015 and 2020. She also worked with Roberta Sykes Indigenous Education Foundation, where she served as director from 2012 to 2016 and Foundation Fellow to Harvard University in 2014. So on your behalf and behalf of the community, I'd like to thank Denisha for her contributions to our Redlands Coast and congratulate her for this incredible achievement. As today is the last general meeting for a couple of us, I'd like to now take an opportunity to acknowledge one of our departing councillors, Councillor Edwards, who has been a divisional councillor for Division 5 for 8 years, 12 years, pardon me, gosh, 12 years. And for those of you who have known Mark for a long time, you know that he's been completely committed to making sure that our island communities are recognised not just at local level but at state and federal level, and the opportunities that the islands bring to our city more broadly. I have fond memories of seeing Mark campaign in the early days with a big truck with a cow on the back. I won't go into the details, but it certainly caused a ruckus. But you'll all agree with me around here in the chambers that he's always been very diplomatic, very wise, and very considerate in his comments. He's used his time wisely in here and has always contributed positively to debate. That doesn't happen all the time, and I think Mark's contribution has been outstanding in that space. I'm happy to open the floor up, if that's okay, for others to add to that. But Councillor Edwards, we wish you all the best with your next chapter. Thank you for your loyalty to your community, our community, and we wish you all the best. Councillor Tolty.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. If I can just add to that, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with Councillor Edwards. And as someone who can't balance their credit card,
That's not Councillor Edwards, by the way.
Yes, that would be me with the credit card. Not having someone with the breadth of understanding and qualifications in finance and economics over these 12 years for budgets has been a wonderful support for all the councillors, I think, and his general gentlemanly approach to things has always been greatly appreciated. And he's sometimes a calm in the middle of a storm. So we thank him and we'll miss him. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor. Just off the top of my head, those memories of when times might be a bit tough and a little bit stressed, and all of a sudden these little gifts pop up on your desk and you think, oh, that's actually pretty nice. Who did that? Or the little chocolate, or one year it was a little Christmas present and a little box and a little angel that still to this day glows. Only just, but still glows. And every year I unpack that little angel, and thank you. I know you've done that for many, many people. And one year it was you are valued, just when we needed those little pickups. Yeah, thank you. Truly thank you.
Councillor Mitchell.
I've also got the story of things popping up about Mark, and that was as I walked into the office one evening and saw a person lingering in the office after hours, and after squealing bravely, I saw it was a life-sized cutout likeness of Councillor Edwards that he'd placed in his office. So that was a gift that kept giving for a little while. So I thank you for that moment of sheer terror and then ongoing humour. But on a more serious note, I'd also like to thank Mark for bringing trust and honesty and a pragmatic and empathetic approach into Chamber and how you've dealt with people, and always was a little oasis of common sense and a place where you could bounce off a great idea and decide if it truly was great or he'd let you know if it wasn't so great in a very kind, caring and factual manner. So thank you, Mark, for the time I've spent you in over 8 years here.
Mark?
Thank you for those words. As most of you know, 2 years ago I made the decision, I let the public know that I won't be continuing. Politics probably hasn't been the right fit for me. I really came in because there was some things that I wanted to see done, and I think when I first came in, people were a little bit intimidated because they perceived the things that I'd said outside were possibly, they didn't align with what a lot of them thought. They were a bit concerned, but I think people soon realise that I try and bring a level of calmness and understanding and work to the ways that things can be delivered, even if it can't be delivered straight away. And speaking of delivery, it's one council doesn't do it. It requires a majority of councillors here and councillors of past terms as well. And I appreciate and I thank those councillors who have supported me over those years to achieve the things that have gone to Division 5. And I could go on and list all the things, but there's been a lot of money spent on them. And yes, it's true, there's still a long way to go as well, because it's a disadvantaged community. That I appreciate their support. For those that may not know, I'm not on social media. I've never door knocked. I just put my trust in that people will listen to what I say and come out of it. So today I'm really quite happy, and I thank all the officers of this organisation. That's one thing I'll miss, the people and the friendships I've made here. I won't miss the politics at all. And just looking at the current election, I'm so relieved I'm not involved. So I feel I've done the best I can. It needs new blood now to come in, different ideas. And finally, I'd like to thank you, Karen, because I didn't know you before I was elected in, but it was your support and guidance that managed to get a lot of things achieved for the division, and not only my division, across the city as well. And I hope we'll keep in touch. Yeah, you know where I live, and I'm just looking forward to retirement and travelling around the world. So thank you.
And just before you, just to put that into perspective, I don't believe that there's ever been a council that's been re-elected 3 times on the islands, which shows the complete dedication and respect that Councillor Edwards has earned. And just to remind you, Councillor Edwards, you helped us oversee the transition of a community that was part of South East Queensland but not considered to be worthy of being on a TransLink network. That wasn't easy. They had to pay for it, unlike any other community in South East Queensland. They had to actually collect a levy. We did that with your support and the community support. Not only that, obviously some of the big projects that still continue to be, or there's still a problem until the solution is delivered, like Wynham Creek, having a PDA. Some of the really big investments in that part of our city has occurred because of your tenacity and your ability to have a future vision for your part of the community. And just probably to finish off, Tony has given me a laminated copy of just a reminder of where it started for you, Councillor Edwards. This was the first resolution that you moved back in 2012, and it was a petition to bitumen Eastbourne Terrace on Macleay Island. For those of you, I'm hoping that one got done. For those of you who don't know, we've got some wonderful visitors in the back of the room from other parts of South East Queensland. Our islands were subdivided many years ago by a former state government without any infrastructure, and for 50 years had dirt roads and dust problems. And because of the divisional nature of our council, it was very difficult for that problem to be addressed. This particular petition started not only what turned out to be $19 million of investment over that period of time under Mark's leadership, but also turned a 70-year program of sealing those roads into what effectively was about a 10-year program, saving significant operational costs to this organisation, thereby all ratepayers in Redlands. So even though this might seem a very simple BAU motion of council. I think it's a great reminder for you, Councillor Edwards, that you are the beginning of something really good for those islands. We hope that continues. And, you know, it's only laminated, but if you want it to be framed, I'll speak to Tony. But, for the record, it was carried. We didn't have divisions back then, but I know that you haven't always had the support across chambers for all these projects. But it's great that you've managed to do that despite all of that. So with that, I'd like to present you with a card and your laminated petition motion.
Thank you.
Oh,
Enjoy the world.
So, Madam Mayor, before you move on, we have one more recognition of achievement, if I may.
sure.
So, it is not only Councillor Edwards' last meeting, and for all we know, it could be several other people's last meeting, but what we do know is it is also Madam Mayor Karen Williams' last meeting today of a general meeting of council. So if we can, we'd like to take a moment to just remind everybody about the 2 decades of service that she has given to this local community and the depth and breadth of the impacts that she's had for this community. So Councillor Williams, and I have borrowed some words from the CEO because we are a little busy at the minute. Councillor Williams has served Redland City for 2 decades, and she was first elected as the councillor for Division 9 in 2004, and I remember it very well. At that time, this city was known as Redlands Shire, and we were the Redland Shire Council. Karen was such a political force that she brought a huge number of changes in her first term to this sleepy shire, even though she was a single city councillor in this council. I did learn as deputy of the disaster management group that when she first came in, we didn't have a formal disaster management group arrangement, and that was Madam Mayor's now, Councillor Karen Williams's first motion of council was to form a disaster management group. And so that echoes across these 2 decades and certainly was a pivotal moment for this city and all of the issues that have been managed and all of the people that have been cared for through significant disasters ever since. And that was moved, I have the date here, I'm sorry, on the 28th of April 2004. And so that was the first time that Redland City got a formal disaster management committee and a formal structure to manage disasters in the future. And that was the first motion that Councillor Williams moved almost 20 years ago. Consequently, or otherwise, Councillor Williams strove to achieve so many more things for this city. After 2 terms as a local city councillor, she announced her intention to run as mayor, and she worked on a platform of economic development. But for those who have worked with her for a long time, we know that her platform has been much broader and much deeper than economic development, but that is certainly one of her achievements. She rolled up her sleeves, she got stuck in, and she went to work making a difference in this beautiful part of the world where she has lived for almost all of her life. As Mayor, she set up the Economic Development Framework and Industry Assistance Network for the city. She's worked with community groups, the Chamber of Commerce, all all who would come and work with us to make this place a better opportunity for future generations. She was integral in attracting the Australian Industry Trade College to Cleveland and, of course, worked tirelessly through the Queensland Council of Mayors to successfully secure the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games for Brisbane. And it's a testament to the work that she's done through the Council of Mayors that two of her colleagues from the Council of Mayors are here to pay tribute to her today, and I certainly thank them for coming. Mayor Tanya Milligan and Mayor Paul Antonio, who have worked with her for so many years. From there, we secured an Olympic whitewater venue for the Games to be built here on Redland's coast at the Birkdale Community Precinct. On this land, by the way, which she had advocated for years to have purchased from the Australian government, who were threatening to sell it and had earmarked it for housing. Despite the rewriting of history by political people, that is the fact of the matter. And where she had been a part of a campaign to save the historic Willard's Farm dairy property from being demolished, and we now see the fruition of that with that being restored with council funding. How wonderful that in her final year she does get to see that, and I certainly look forward to the day when she gets to come back and visit and see that whole precinct built and completed. For the Southern Moreton Bay Islands, she negotiated the ferry services into TransLink's network, working in partnership with the state on a massive upgrade project for the ferry terminals, and that was a very challenging period, and she never took a step back. In the community, the breadth of people and organisations she has supported across the whole of the Redlands coast is phenomenal. All sorts of groups, all sorts of people, all Redlanders needing help and support and a push in the right direction to achieve their goals and their ambitions. In particular, her work has raised both awareness and funds to support domestic violence and family violence prevention. And I personally recall when I came into council, every time we had a call where someone needed some kind of support, the best we could do was send them to Beenleigh on particular hours, on odd days, and there was no service here in Redland at all. And that has changed markedly, and that is in no small part to the work of Mayor Karen Williams. She, of course, was re-elected in 2016 and again in 2020, and so overall she served 5 terms of council for this community. But there are 5 terms that the CEO has attributed to her when talking to the organisation about her farewell, and I think that it's fitting that we hear those today. So on behalf of the organisation, the terms that have been accredited to Mayor Williams are connected to the community, infectious in enthusiasm, dedicated to the cause, respect through empathy and forward thinking. So 5 terms and a myriad of achievements to go with them, and a truly wonderful career, not just representing but caring deeply for this community you have served. And as your Deputy Mayor for the last couple of years, I thank you very much, and I wish you all the very best for life outside the council, which I hear can be delightful, and I may even find out soon. Congratulations. I have no doubt that you will continue to kick goals and achieve across the next chapter and whatever you choose to take up in the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And if I may, I would like to move a motion that we suspend standing orders to allow some people not sitting at the chamber table to say a few words. So could I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you. Councillor Hughes will second that. And although she's still sitting in the chair, may I have a vote, please? Yes, 1, 2. Okay, that's a unanimous vote. So with that, I would like to invite former Mayors Tanya Milligan and Paul Antonio up if they would like to say a few words.
Good morning. I haven't prepared anything, so as usual, I'll speak from the heart. Mayor Karen, it is an absolute privilege to be here this morning, and I'll try not to get emotional. Look, I can honestly say it's been the greatest privilege for myself. Your professionalism, your friendship over the entire time that I have known you and have been really blessed to work with you and alongside of you. I have always been in absolute awe of you. You've been a wonderful mentor for me as well. And a lot of people think they know what life as a mayor is like, but a lot of people don't really understand all the layers and the intricacies of it. So myself as a mayor, it's been always lovely to be able to know that you had my back, and I hope you know that I always had your back. You've been a fearless leader, and I want your colleagues around the table in your community know that at any time I have always heard you speak with such passion for your community. Every single time, every opportunity, whether we were in Brisbane, whether we were in Canberra, whether we were at a delegation. And also, you always had my back. You always had the backs of the smaller communities like Lockyer Valley. So exceptionally grateful. It has been a real honour. Friday is International Women's Day, and for me, I would like to honour you because you are one of those incredible women in my life that I've been really blessed to cross paths with, and hope to continue to have you as my friend. So thank you.
Well, I'm very honoured to be here, ladies and gentlemen. This lady is a very close friend of mine, and she knows us Portuguese cry a bit easy. But when I became the Mayor of Toowoomba, I became part of the Council of Mayors in South East Queensland. Now, my background, we own a number of properties west of Millmerran. I'm a farmer, I'm an ag science graduate from university, and I hadn't had much to do with cities. I just dodged that. And quite frankly, the first few meetings I went to of ComSec, I wondered what I was doing there. But the work of Karen, the work of Graham Quirk, and I think Graham Quirk similarly is a very close friend and a mentor of mine, and I think we work both ways, taught me the value of working together. And that's what I saw with Karen. Karen, you're a good friend. You always will be a good friend. And there was a most unusual circumstance. Karen kept saying to me, my father worked on a sheep station at a place called Millmerran. Well, that's the centre of the universe to me. That's my hometown. And it was so funny that the original Antonio, who came to Queensland from Western Australia, from Minderoo, where the mine was, he was working on a station, was the manager of Glenferrie. And Karen's dad worked on Glenferrie. Mother was there for a while too, but there were too many snakes in the house, she told me. And but look, Karen, I have admired your leadership qualities. You are so genuine. And that's what life's about. I think in politics today, there's a lack of genuine people. And I've just had a long conversation with my son. I gave up the mayoralty in Toowoomba on the 21st of July. And there were people asking my son, who's well-educated, articulate, same background as me, not interested in being part of it because of it. It's not easy anymore being in politics. But no, Karen, you're a true friend, and I'm thankful that I remained in ComSec and I got to know you and my good friend Tanya and Graham Quirk so very well and the other mayors. And the lesson that we learned there was if you work together with a common cause, you achieve. Let's talk about the Olympic Games. Let's talk about the 45-minute region, which is big for us. And let's talk about the planning for the future of those extra 2 million people who will come here under the City Deal concept. All those sort of things were brought together by a group of people who work together. And Karen, thank you. Karen has actually been to my place and she hasn't made any comment. I think I tried to tell her it was the centre of the universe. She didn't agree. But ladies and gentlemen, Karen, as I've said 3 times already, you are a true friend. You're one of the most genuine people I've met. And I think what you've provided for your community that's come out today is something very, very special. And I thank you, and I'm proud to know you.
Thank you both very much. Is there anyone else who would like to say a few words? Oh.
Thank you.
I'm just taking over the chair without permission. Thank you.
Yeah, very briefly, and Mayor Williams, you've certainly been a great mentor to me. I remember as a physio in the area with no political background, just 25 years in business in the area, loved the place, and had just met so many people from council and everywhere when I was, just had this nagging thought that I can be good at that job. I had no idea what I was going to be doing, no idea of what I was coming into. I remember reaching out to Karen because I knew her husband, Peter, and I said, "Oh, would she have a chat with me?" And he said, "Yeah, I think so." And Karen just said to me at that time, "Peter, you'd make a great candidate." And I remember that. And that's why I put my hand up. And here we are. I'm so glad I did and what I've learned. But it was just that one moment and that one little bit of confidence to say you're worthy and you can contribute. So thank you.
So, sorry, Councillor Gollay.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Madam Chair. My story is a little bit different. I'd just returned from overseas in Iraq, and I'd met an organisation called Redlands 2030 who had told me that the castle was on fire and everything was burning and everything was evil, and I need to get in there and fight. So, like a true keyboard warrior, I got onto Facebook, hid behind a screen and aired my thoughts, only to be challenged and told, "All right, sunshine, put your money where your mouth is." And that was Mayor Williams. Mayor Williams and I have never really seen eye to eye on a lot of things. I think there's been a professional courtesy. But at the end of the day, I guess, Mayor Antonio, you've sort of summed it up. Politics is very difficult today because there's a lot of perceptions out there of what we can and can't do. And I think, for me, I've learned from everyone in this room. Pretty much everyone has actually supported me to where I am today. For that, I'm very grateful. But I would never have been here to learn so much from my community or my peers in this room if it wasn't for Councillor Williams calling me up, holding me to account and saying, "Put your money where your mouth is, don't hide behind a keyboard and give it a shot. If you think you can do it, give it a go." So I guess I owe you a thank you without being too political. And I just wish you all the best. Thank you.
That it? Oh, Councillor Mackenzie.
Just wanted to highlight something that Deputy Mayor overlooked was that through Mayor Williams, Redland City Council has been a significant advocate for domestic violence in this city, and over the last several years has raised over $450,000 towards domestic violence accommodation in this city, and also last year was awarded the Alison Wooler Award at the LGAQ conference. So I just want to congratulate her on her leadership in directing that and advocating for that in this city.
Anyone else? Oh, sorry. Mrs. Murphy?
Good morning, everyone. I've been coming into this place. I first came in as an accident. I was downstairs paying my fee for my little puppy I'd like to sport, and I noticed that there was a sign that said council meeting open to public. So being a sticky peak, I thought, yep, I'll have a look at this. Well, the first day that I came in, it was a shock. I know it gets a little difficult here at times with people's different views, but what I saw on that particular day was a disgrace. And the following month, or actually it was fortnightly then, and I came in that next fortnight and I wasn't a happy chappy. And of course I got offside with some councillors, but I didn't worry about that. I was standing up for a young woman who I believed at that time was being what they would say now, abused. And it was difficult after I'd made that speech because people weren't happy with me in the room. But I decided to get the backbone into place, and I've been coming here ever since. I've seen Karen just grow and grow and grow. Oh, Mayor Karen, sorry. And I've seen her grow from a councillor into the mayor that she has become, and she's worked very hard. She's given, like most politicians, and council is political, give up time from their family, and she's done that and done it well. Lovely family, and she's done a great job, I believe. Not everybody will agree with me, but then if they stood toe to toe with me, we would certainly have a good discussion. Karen, I wish you all the very best for the future and keep doing what you do. Thank you very much for your service. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, yes, okay,
Before I take the chair back,
okay.
you need to now. Okay. All right, so we're going to resume standing orders and then I'll respond. These minute secretaries, they run my life.
Okay.
So,
I hope the cameras have been on. They haven't been. Oh, good. Never thought of that. So with that, just before we do take motion to go back into standing orders, I will pop down and present you with your first motion of council from 2004. And one thing I did forget to say, if I can, is the way over the last 12 years that the mayor has surprised me, and I think many others. Oftentimes we would find ourselves in here talking about an issue that was difficult or impossible for a local government to deal with, whether it was some kind of trade issue or a state government or federal government issue. And we would say, well, what can we do? And Mayor Karen would say, well, actually, I've been speaking with so-and-so and such, and I had a meeting with them last year, and I've got this in train. I just hadn't told you about it yet. And she was so far ahead of the game so often that she had the problem solved before we even knew there was a problem to be solved. So I think that's important to understand how complex the job is, but how well she did it. So with that, I will give the floor back to the Mayor and just present this. Thank you.
So if I just take a motion to resume standing orders, move Councillor Hughes, second Councillor Mackenzie. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. If I just might be able to respond to the kind words I've heard here this morning and thank my council mayor colleagues for travelling all the way from Toowoomba and Lockyer to be here for this last general meeting of mine. I just want to say to you and to both Mayor Milligan and former Mayor Antonio that many of the highlights of my last 12 years have come around because of the people sitting around the Council of Mayors table, because they are truly visionary and they have been collaborative and they know how to agree to disagree, and we have each other's backs, and you don't always get that in every corner of this job. So and the friendships that have been born out of that will be everlasting, and I'm just so fortunate to have been around that table with so many big things that have happened for Southeast Queensland. The city deals, for example, 8 years of trudging through state and federal parliaments trying to get them to understand the value of collaboration with all levels of government. The pre-feasibility for Olympic Games, which was not about 2 weeks of sport, it was about making sure that our infrastructure kept up with the growth that our city our cities, our region was encountering. And of course, just the fun times. And I won't mention the Qantas Club, Mayor Antonio, because and the connections that we've made, support you've given through domestic and family violence events here. And my father actually earned his citizenship this great country working on that farm in Millmerran. And Councillor Antonio, I'm very grateful that I was able to walk in the footsteps of that little shack that they lived in where the snakes and spiders occupied more of the space than my parents. Thank you for making that happen. It was very special for me, and that connection obviously is enduring as well. And if I just may take this opportunity to reflect on 2 decades of community service. Obviously, it's a privilege, and any elected member, whether you're a councillor or a state member, understands it is an honour and a privilege to be able to represent your community. And I've been on this journey with many of you in the room. I can see a couple of faces in the ELT that have been here longer than me. I can see one anyway. And many who have been here almost as long as I have. And so thank you for your support. As you know, public service, regardless of where you sit in the organisation or in the political spectrum, should be a source of pride. It's very difficult today with social media to be able to wear that publicly, because we seem to live in a world of, hate book kind of environment, which makes it difficult for us to do our job. So just over those last 20 years, many things have changed. I think I said this last week, many things have changed, except we still have a leaky administration building. But our sense of community is stronger than ever, and that's something that we should all be proud of. It's been like a blink of an eye, my service. I said this last week, to think that I've spanned 4 US presidents. Started with George W. Bush, if you even remember that. 8 prime ministers, a couple had 2 goes, 4 premiers. We've seen global transformation. The world has changed so dramatically, particularly in the last decade, particularly with the rise of social media, the introduction of smartphones, and all of that sometimes feels like a lifetime and other times just feels like a fleeting moment. As my tenure concludes here, I can't help but marvel at the incredible chapter that all of us have written together over the last 12 years. And it's marked by achievements, has been touched on by my mayoral colleagues at the back of the room, way beyond our borders. Just for us, a $6 billion pipeline of projects that sets our future up for our kids and our grandkids. We've had Hollywood productions, and I have to mention it because it'll be the last time I can do this publicly, but just for those of you who don't remember, Johnny Depp kissed this cheek. We've had George Clooney, we've had Julia Roberts, we've had some amazing opportunities that didn't come by chance. It came by an organisation focused on making sure that our city would be on the map for many other reasons other than just Hollywood. And of course, we talked about the Olympics, and it's not just 2 or 3 weeks of sport. The life-saving initiative as a resilience training centre when we are encountering more and more heavy rain, disasters, flooding, urban flooding. It's a legacy that should be delivered, and when people get to understand the detail, they should support it. And if they don't support it, you need to ask them what the alternative is. And I also want to remind people around this room, as my colleagues at Council of Mayors agreed, that one of the reasons the Olympics is important to South East Queensland is we need the infrastructure. We've been left behind. And for Redlands, that is a Eastern Busway or Transitway. It's a duplication of rail. So my word of wisdom is to take a breath, make sure you understand the detail before you make your mind up about what is important for our future. And I just wanted to also, I think I had a conversation with a certain officer who will know who I'm talking about the other day, is that those big projects that council's responsible for, they weren't just a thought bubble that one night, one of us woke up and said, let's build Toondah Harbour. Let's redevelop Wynham Creek. Let's build a sporting field that can actually bring health and wellness to our community. They were all problems that our ratepayers and our community were facing. The state had ignored us. They didn't acknowledge the fact that we're a city of islands. They didn't have any funding put aside for what is effectively a port called Toondah. Yet they had a transition, an economic transition, to make North Stradbroke Island focus on tourism. And there we had Toondah Harbour cobbled together, reclamations, still features the 1988 media tower as its main piece of infrastructure. And we were talking about welcoming the world to a channel that gets silted up and no one has the funding for it unless there's an election. And I wasn't the first mayor to try and resolve this. And so Toondah Harbour, the PDA became a solution to a problem. And similarly with Wynham Creek, the growth of those islands has been exponential. And there's been no support from any other level of government to make sure that those people can be treated like every other Southeast Queenslander when it comes to being able to access the rest of the region. And of course, Heinemann Road provides opportunities for our young people, and the growth that's been imposed on us, we need to be able to have social infrastructure to support them. And Birkdale is just an opportunity of a lifetime. As I said, as a precinct, not just as an Olympic venue, it's much more than that, which prevented 400 houses potentially being built, as that was what the federal government had earmarked it for. So collectively, and I haven't done it on my own, the Council of Mayors, we've worked together. I couldn't have done it without them, the Local Government Association, the people around this room, the organisation. We've been able to turn those challenges, those problems, into great opportunities for our city, not just for today, but for tomorrow. And may I say, there's been resistance at every turn, and yet we've forged ahead. I think Toondah Harbour, for example, is coming up for its 6th election over 3 levels of government. And, you know, the truth is that there is no truth being spoken about the problem that started the whole process. And also, for those who are, you know, the naysayers, they don't have a solution to the problem at all. And I need to reflect on the fact is that the organisation has been so thorough in managing its finances that we can actually solve these problems because we are financially robust. No net debt. Almost $300 million. Has that changed since we last spoke, Deb? No. In cash reserves. This organisation, and thereby our community, is actually poised for a great future. So let me just take this opportunity to extend once again my thanks to our leadership team. The culture of the organisation here is second to none, and people who visit the CEO's teams will tell you that. My fellow councillors, despite some of the debates around here, I thank you for the times where we were able to find common ground. It's really important in this job to do that. And most importantly, I want to put on record my gratitude to my family. No one does this job without great support from people around them. And I've had the blessings of a wonderful family, soon to be extended by another one very strong female in about 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time. Because politics isn't easy. I think a couple of you already said that. In fact, it's harder now than ever. So as I step away, I sort of do it with trepidation. I am worried about the divisive nature of politics, not just in this city, but more broadly. And, you know, the world really has some waking up to do when it comes to wanting to encourage people to be in strong, well, good leadership roles. But I do leave knowing that this organisation is in great hands. And I do hope for visionary leadership. And I do also want to urge future candidates to stand for something that means the betterment of our city. Not bringing it down, but building it up. So, because the CEO talks about this all the time, I decided I'd ask ChatGPT about leadership in today's complex society. So I'll leave you with this ChatGPT's response. Leadership was never intended to be a popularity contest. Instead, its essence lies in guiding and inspiring others towards a common goal. True leaders make tough decisions, prioritise the greater good over personal popularity, and foster an environment of growth and collaboration. Because, you know, ChatGPT didn't say that bit, I said that. ChatGPT said, popularity may come and go, but effective leadership endures through a commitment to vision and values. The advent of social media has in some ways diminished the essence of leadership. The focus on popularity metrics, you know, likes, hits, instant feedback can steer leaders towards seeking approval rather than making principled decisions. Authentic leadership transcends social media metrics, emphasising substance over superficial acclaim and staying true to core values despite external pressures. So, with that, I'd also like to thank Mrs. Murphy and those who sat in the back of that room and when times were tough for me was a face that gave me a bit of confidence to continue the grind. Not too many people turn up to every single meeting, and I think you need to get a life, Mrs. Murphy, but I want to thank you because I felt pretty much alone in that room at the time, and I'm really grateful that you were there to give me the support to carry on. I'd like to thank everybody in the community and everyone in this room for the opportunity to make a difference. And I pray that the city chooses true leadership with a vision for the future that will bring the city together to celebrate what is a uniquely amazing part of the world. And with that, once again, I say thank you. Councillor Bishop. Sorry, we haven't got standing. We were back in standing orders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too have recognition of achievement. In fact, 4, which I'll do in very rapid succession. I'd like to acknowledge your 5 terms as of leadership of the city. Mark Edwards, all the very best for you. 3 terms together. Thanks for the time we've shared. To all of the councillors who are up for election, all the very best for the current work and your achievements so far. But the 4th one I'd like to bring our attention to is just the election unopposed, which is yet to be announced, of Councillor Wendy Boglari, just for the fact that all of those leadership qualities you've just mentioned by ChatGPT, I think are commensurate to the work that she's done, and all the best for the future.
Vice versa to you too. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. And may I just put on the record, former Mayor Antonio, that there was no tears in my... There was no tears, Paul Antonio. Sorry. All right. Thank you for your indulgence, everyone. I think we'll get back into the agenda, which is receipt confirmation of minutes, which is next. Mover and seconder, thanks. Moved. That's of the 21st of February 2024 meeting. Moved Councillor Edwards. Seconded Councillor Mackenzie. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Councillors, I won't go through the whole list because I believe that we're probably right declarations of conflicts of interest, but please understand your responsibilities under Chapter 5B of the Local Government Act 2009, and obviously we won't be having any more workshops before the term of this meeting. So with that, unless anyone has any conflicts to declare, with that I'll hand over to the CEO for matters outstanding.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and our congratulations to you on behalf of officers as well. There are matters outstanding from the previous general meetings: the subordinate local law number 4, the local government controlled areas, facilities and roads. That is addressed as an item on 13.2 of today's agenda. 7.2 is the notice of motion from Councillor Tolty reporting on Council's programs related to the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. That will come to a future meeting of Council, as will the 7.3, the draft Birkdale Community Precinct Local Government Infrastructure Designation Consultation Report. Item 7.4, the suspected conduct breach, that will come off the agenda once the apology and reimbursement has been made.
Thank you, CEO. Now, councillors, the next item is a mayoral minute, and it was distributed to you just recently. As you know, this has significance across the whole state of Queensland in regards to, I guess, a weakness in the Planning Act. I can quickly ask, if you like, legal counsel to speak to that, and I know that we've been talking about this collectively over the last number of weeks. So that's my motion. Would you, Andrew, would just like to give a quick rundown?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the detail is in the mayoral minute. The resolutions support both a collaborative approach with the state government and their departments, together with To address some of the practical implications, the state government will be aware this is not a new issue or planning problem, if you like. Local Government Association of Queensland have been advocating on this particular piece of legislation for a number of years. The solution is likewise not particularly that difficult. It's incorporating into the definition of a community residence the Queensland Development Code and design principles. To bring to life some of the issues in this appeal, you can see it on page 2 in terms of the definition of a community residence being reasonably associated, a building reasonably associated for housing no more than 6 persons. Now, whether it's a disability accommodation or a youth justice facility. The particular building in this size, in this particular site, dwarfs the surrounding residents. That was a testimony from the expert planner. In effect, this is not a single dwelling of 7 bedrooms. This is a multiple dwelling of 5 apartments with 9 bedrooms. Now, that may not seem a lot, from 7 to 9 bedrooms, or 1 dwelling to 5 dwellings. But when you look at the site cover, which is how much of the brick and mortar or the concrete is across that site, in a low-rise residential area, the average is around 30 to 50%. Now, on top of that, that allows for your driveways, your gardens, your landscaping. This particular site has 76% covered by brick and mortar. In fact, the whole site, there is no lawn, there is synthetic lawn. So 76% as against to a 30 or 50% site cover. As we said before, the number of bedrooms, they're not 7 bedrooms, they're 9 bedrooms and 5 apartments. In terms of, you drive down a neighbourhood street anywhere in the city, in fact anywhere in the state, and you'll have a 6 metre setback from your streetscape. This one has 2 metres. The practical implications of 2 metres and 6 metres is no off-street parking. The rear boundary doesn't have your standard, which is a standard in every residential design code in Queensland, 4 metres. This one has 1.5 metres and 2 balconies overlooking the neighbour's backyard. So the size, and then the landscaping. So usually design code likewise has shadowing effect, solar effects, landscaping requirements. As I said before, you can see there is a design published map of this particular building, and it occupies the majority of the site by 76%. The landscaping is synthetic lawn, patio, and a pool built to boundary. You'll see in the report, I think it's page 2 or 3, is the impact statements on those surrounding residents. So loss of privacy, loss of solar, loss of enjoyment, loss of well-being. When we do hear about court processes, we do take those very seriously. We take them as seriously as the well-being and the respect and the impacts we have on our community. They moved into this area not with a reasonable expectation that they'll be living next to an apartment building with 5 apartments. They moved into this residential area, low rise, low density, with the reasonable expectation they'll be living next to neighbours on a similar footprint, on a similar amenity issue. This is not what they've got. Now, our development assessment team, our compliance team, our planning officers have met with the state government representatives. They had a meeting yesterday, they had a meeting last month. The Local Government Association likewise have had continued meetings to suggest, even work collaboratively to provide a better outcome for our communities, consistent with the Planning Act. My comment here is really just to give a practical effect of what these buildings do give to the community. I believe we have a neighbourhood today. Now, if my words have not done Nadine justice, of the impact of this new building has on her quality of life, on her family and her kids, who I believe now made a statement about leaving Redlands because they don't want to live next to an apartment building. But what we do invite, if there is commentaries from the state members or the state representatives, is come down and discuss with our community the real impacts and look for solutions that we can work together on. Otherwise, you can see the resolution that has a balance between advocacy of the state government together with seeking a resolution through the court process where we might achieve better outcome.
Thanks, Andrew. So I will allow Nadine to speak in public participation. We have a couple of speakers, but if I could just see if there's any questions of councillors. I think we've discussed this quite a lot. I think the message for the rest of Queensland is that this could happen right next door to you, right now, anywhere in Queensland. And I don't think that the intention of community residents was designed to have that lack of transparency for communities. So there has been some very unhelpful commentary by a state member in regards to this. Let me make it very clear. This is not about NDIS. This is about good planning principles. And in fact, I would argue that if you think that people with a disability deserve to live in second-class conditions with no access to open space, then you are doing them a big injustice as well as the community that surrounds them. Unfortunately, the politics in the city allows that story to be twisted into something it's not. So it's really important today that we put on record that this council, myself personally, has always advocated for accommodation, a suitable accommodation for people with disabilities in the city. Those of you who know Clarehaven and Alexandra Hills, that was something that I advocated for as a councillor, but it's not built to boundary. It's not got overlooking balconies into people's backyards. It was designed with the consideration of the tenants as well as the community around them. So happy for any questions. Otherwise, I'll put the motion as stands. Councillor Bishop, you have a question?
It's not a question. I'd just like to speak to this, if I may.
Sure.
So I believe that the points that have been raised in regard to community expectations and to sequential planning are absolutely important to our community. I'd also like to acknowledge the background of what is taking place with the light touch review of the South East Queensland Regional Plan, which has had a small modicum of consultation with our community, has not actually listened to the voice very clearly of our community that they do not want to see inappropriate development in inappropriate places. And I think when we look at our housing strategy, which the state is currently looking at, the signals that could get sent by something like this not being more sequentially integrated in line with the design principles and all the various points that our General Consul has raised is a concern. It will remain a concern. And to just refer back to what Councillor and former Mayor Paul Antonio was saying a moment ago, what we need in such important decisions about the future of planning in this city and across the state, across the country, in fact, the Western world, is to address these issues. We need to collaborate. We need to find the common boundary of what is in the best interest of residents, of neighbours, of communities, and all levels of government. And we need to do this not in a rush. We need to do it in an ordered manner. And council needs to manage that with our planning scheme. I would also urge that we, at local government, state government, and if necessary, if the feds are going to get involved, we do engagement with our community from the outset of the construction of the next, or the creation of the next planning scheme, and listen to that voice very clearly, because I think politics is getting in the way of good, orderly, sequential planning, and I'd like to see that considered in this instance as well and going forward. Thanks.
So just to be clear, Councillor, in case you're not aware, this is exempt from our planning scheme.
So that's why I think this needs to be seen in alignment with all of those things, because it's still an expectation in our community that anomalies like this will not appear and will not have the impacts that I'm sure we're about to hear about, and which are going to be ongoing and they're not tolerable to our community.
And collaboration is definitely a two-way street. We need to make sure that we've got people that are willing to come to the table, have those discussions in a mature fashion. Councillor Mitchell, you want to make a comment?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and I do believe that there's a resident there, so I might just do that ahead of these comments. So I'd like to, I've been involved very intimately with this from the beginning, and all councillors were informed of this travesty of state legislation that's created this impact, and I thank those that have shown genuine interest in trying to get the state to come to the party on this. I want to pay credit to the residents of Danielle Street and surrounds. They were rightly angry, as I was when this first came to our attention through community complaints, because it did bypass any fair and reasonable assessment. Just went straight through it when the builders started working next door. They were rightly angry, but quickly sought information, and then over time some good leaders in that street then helped to inform their own community alongside myself. And I'd like to really give council officers some great credit here. They've really gone the extra yard here appropriately and really worked well. It's a great example of how we collaborate, but you can't make others collaborate. I was so personally angry, as many of the residents of that area were, and these are public comments, so I'm quite comfortable saying them here, of Don Brown MP, who showed such disrespect and disregard, in my opinion, to the community, in saying that it was about the street or council bagging community residents and NDIS housing. What a nonsense. What a nonsense. We welcome it. And the people of Danielle Street and surrounds would welcome it if properly managed, if properly controlled. So that does need to be on the record. And the state members, all of them, need to step up. Step up. Where are you? And I wrote to all of them. Not one contacted the people of Danielle Street. They refused. So again, I'd just like to say thanks to everyone for taking the ball up. This is a hole in the state legislation, the size of the property that's being built, and it needs to be fixed. So also there's one, happy to call it a victim impact statement, if you like, from a resident. Nadine is here in the audience, but this is from Helen and James, who live at the back of this property. Helen and her husband James share a real boundary with the development. The development sits with a 1 metre setback from their boundary. The size and scale of the development looms over this property. Due to the size and scale of the development, they have lost significant privacy in their home. The development comprises 2 balconies and a number of windows which are directly above their rear boundary and look directly into their backyard and into their home. In addition to the above, Helen and James have advised me that one of the reasons that I can't be here today, along with some very serious medical reasons for James, which is just a real kicker in this issue, adding great stress to a very unwell man at the moment, is because they have arranged for awnings to be installed at the back of the property in order to try and gain some privacy back, and they might be actually being installed this morning. So, well, that's good news. They shouldn't have to do this. Both Adrian and Helen have also raised that the development has negatively impacted the value of their property by tens of thousands of dollars from other people's assessment. So with that, again, thank the residents for what they've done. They also were wonderful in cooperating with council as we've tried to go through the court process, or council have tried to go through the court process to get a fair and reasonable outcome. That's eluded so far, and there is an appeal coming up. So with that, I'll hand you back. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? I'll put the motion, councillors. Those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Okay, yes, just noting that Councillor Berridge is absent for all decisions today. I think she might.
The resident was going to speak to it.
Yes, in public participation. Yeah, which is next, as I understand. So if I could, just in accordance with Section 6.10, Council meeting standing orders will allocate a period of 15 minutes to be made available by resolution to permit members of the public to address local government on matters of public interest relating to the local government. So we do have a number of people that would like to speak today. So can I have a mover and seconder that that meeting standing orders be suspended for 15 minutes to allow public participation to occur? Moved Councillor Bishop, seconded Councillor Mitchell. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Burridge is absent. Okay, our first speaker, if I may, is we actually have a couple of people speaking on the same topic. So if we could condense the three people into 10 minutes to allow 5 minutes for another topic, that would be great, if you can just be aware of that. So Mrs. Kathy Clark, representing BirdLife Southern Queensland regarding a petition to council that's coming today. Firstly, I just need to read you through.
Madam Mayor, can I just request that if they have 5 minutes, can they be accorded 5 minutes?
We have, Councillor, we have a motion at the moment. It's live. It's 15 minutes. If we can do it in 15 minutes, we will. If we think there's a need for an extension, we'll do that. But I also know that you don't have some of the pressures other councillors have. Well, we have one councillor that's able to be at pre-poll this morning. There's a number of councillors that aren't. So you have you may have noticed the signage in the chambers regarding public participation at meetings. It's council's usual practice to require any person wishing to address the meeting to state their name and suburb or organisation they represent and the subject they wish to speak about. The information is recorded in the minutes of the meeting, which is a public document available for inspection at Council's Administration Building and published on Council's website. I'd also like to advise you that the meeting is being live streamed, and that by speaking you acknowledge and agree that this meeting can be seen live in the public domain. So any person addressing this meeting must state their name and suburb or the organisation they represent and the subject they wish to speak about. We ask you to stand unless you're unable to do so. Act and speak with decorum, be respectful and courteous, make no comments directed at any individual council employee, councillor or member of the public, ensuring that all comments relate to council as a whole. And I do have some responsibilities as chair. It's to consider each application on its merits and consider any relevant matter in making my decision to allow or disallow a person to address the local government. Also, only those members of the public who have an approved application are able to do so. Details on how to apply on Council's website, and I also have the responsibility of determining the maximum number of speakers based on the persons wanting to speak and the time available, which is 5 minutes. So with that, I also have the responsibility of withdrawing the approval to address council before that time period has elapsed. And just a reminder that debate or discussion cannot be entered into at this time. So with that, over to you, Ms. Clark.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Kathy Clark. I'm a resident. I live in Capalaba. I've lived here for 20 years, and I am here to represent BirdLife Redlands, BirdLife Southeast Queensland, and also BirdLife Australia. BirdLife Australia has 330 supporters and members Australia-wide, so we're a very large organisation. The reason I'm here is to support the petition that is being presented today by Councillor Julie Talty. Thank you very much for presenting that for us. And that petition has 61 pages and 538 signatures, and we're still collecting signatures, even though we won't be able to present those, but people feel so passionate about this topic that they still want to sign the form. What this is all about is about 2 farm dams down in the shoreline development that we think are extremely important to be protected. And not just for the birds and the wildlife, but for the public as well. As I just said, 330 supporters of BirdLife in Australia, and bird tourism is becoming enormous. This is a fantastic opportunity for the Redlands to do something really special in the southern Redland Bay area, to turn these dams into environmental parks for not just for the wildlife and the birds, which I'll talk about in a minute, which is incredibly special, but for the public as well. Unfortunately, at the moment, these dams are going to be drained and filled in, and covered in either sporting fields or housing or perhaps even a wildlife corridor, which is very bizarre to take away wildlife habitat to make a wildlife corridor. When I first discovered these dams in 2014, I was just amazed at the bird life there. There were hundreds of birds. There are pelicans that come there and roost there. There are birds of prey flying over. There are actually at Orchard Road Dam, which is a huge dam, 133 listed species now, and a number of those include migratory shorebirds. Some of them are critically endangered, and unfortunately, the environmental ecological report that was prepared for this development did not look at these dams. It's completely inadequate. We had, a couple of months ago, we had 200 sharp-tailed sandpipers. Now, I did have posters and things, but I was told I can't bring them in. Sharp-tailed sandpipers have now been uplisted to vulnerable. We've had curlew sandpipers there. They are critically endangered. We have Latham snipe, which is vulnerable. We saw that actually yesterday down at the Scenic Road Dam, flew off. And we have lots of other beautiful birds, amazing numbers of ducks, pink-eared ducks, never seen them before in the Redlands. Whiskered terns, they are very unusual in the Redlands. And in actual fact, we are now having bird watchers from northern suburbs of Brisbane, Gold Coast, coming up to try and see these birds. And we have comments on Facebook, oh, I couldn't get in to see them because there's a fence. So I am asking the council to please relook at this. There's been a change of approval application. This is a great opportunity for the council to do something that will attract people to the Redlands, not just going out to the islands, but something really an amazing and special, all this bird life. Mount Cotton Community Park, look how popular that is. It's fantastic. Families love it. And there's lots of birds. I take my bird watchers there every year and we get a fantastic bird lift. The photographers are there and so on. Springfield is another place where there's big water body and it's a big it's a opportunity for the Redlands that I would really love to take on and insist the developers not drain these magic dams. Go down there, have a look. Scenic Road Dam, we were there yesterday afternoon.
Sorry, Miss.
Lots of egrets and all sorts of wonderful things.
I need you to wind up. Thank you.
Okay.
You've lined this up. I appreciate that.
Yes, so thank you very much for this opportunity. And yes, go down and have a look. You can see Scenic Road Dam quite well from the road, especially in the afternoon. The egrets, spoonbills, they all come there. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mrs. Clark. Our next speaker is Miss Christine McIver. Just a reminder of your name, suburb, organisation you represent. Yep. You may start when you need.
Yep. My name's Christine McIver, usually known as Chris. I'm going to be reading from my notes because I'm not keen on public speaking, but I've come because I feel really strongly as a local. I live in Redland Bay. I've lived in the Redlands for 12 years, and the last 3 of those have been in Redland Bay, just down the road from where these 2 amazing dams are. One of the best things about the area is the huge variety of birds all around that area, and having the dams is just the icing on the cake. One of the things I really love is just watching the pelicans circling from my backyard. They need a huge open dam because they've got to perform these enormous big circles to gradually rise up and get on the thermals again to fly back out to the coast. They can't come into some area that's tiny and heavily treed. They need those water bodies because they have to fly in to drink fresh water. They can't drink salt water. Another concern I have as a local, and so do a lot of other neighbours that I've spoken to, is the hugely increased water runoff that we're going to get from these hectares and hectares of hard surfaces that are going to be created. And even though some of that is going to be a giant sports field, the grass is kept so short and sports fields get so compacted from the heavy usage and the continual mowing that the water just streams off them as well. And that's a huge concern in our neighbourhood. The destruction of existing waterways and dams, which are really important for a ponding effect and to slow water down and filter it before it escapes into the Redland Channel, is just going to make that whole situation a lot worse. Another thing is there's already massive habitat destruction of millions of organisms, and I'm not exaggerating, it could be trillions, with all land clearance and waterway diversion and tunnelling underground and all that sort of stuff. Because when we build over land, we lose all the soil organisms as well as everything else that used to live there. So I think that it would just be a really small token to enhance those dam areas and create a sanctuary with some strategic planting, which would really be great for new and existing residents. I mean, there's going to be another 30,000 people living there. And the other thing, there's a brand new school there, and this could create the most fantastic environmental education opportunity for that school. And schools are always looking for places for kids to go and do revegetation and planting and learn about the environment. That's already there. I've never seen that dam on Orchard Road dry up. It's a huge, important water body, and even in the droughts, it still retains a good percentage of its water. And by the way, there are actually 330,000 BirdLife members across Australia. Imagine them all on Facebook telling their friends overseas that there's this amazing place in the Redlands you can visit for bird watching. So as a local, I've just come because I know the area and I feel really strongly about protecting it. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Stuart. Mr. McSpadden, also. Name, suburb, organisation represent. You can start when you're ready.
No worries. My name is Stuart McSpadden. I live in Redland Bay, and I'm probably one of the closest people that lives. I live opposite one of these dams. So I think I'm going to also read off my notes. So thank you, councillors, for your time. I understand this is a busy time of year for you all. I'm just asking for 5 minutes of audience on a decision that ultimately will affect us for lifetimes to come. I would like to mention also understand the struggles of planning and development, and I'm not against the development of the community. I'm actually standing here speaking because I believe in the community, I believe in the Redlands. So I'm very concerned about the potential loss of specifically the scenic road dams and the Shawn Line development in Redland Bay. I live directly across from this dam, and in fact it's one of the reasons we decided to buy that property in the first place. This is the dam that my kids watch and see birds in daily. It's a dam we ride our bikes past when we're going to the local school. And it's also the dam that my wife uses as inspiration for her artwork. She's a local artist, and she's all the time taking photographs and making artworks about these birds that live here. So this scenic road dam is at risk of being lost forever. And I would like to be clear about two things, about its uniqueness and importance both to the environment and also to the community, to the people that live there as well. So regarding its uniqueness, you'll be hard-pressed to find another location like the Scenic Road Dam. It's 3 intricate bodies of water that are within a stone's throw of the mangroves, and they all overlap each other in a special way that you can look online, you can search through Google Maps, you can try to look up and down the coast. You will not find a body of water or a situation like this. It truly is unique. I asked the prominent member of BirdLife Australia, his name is Frank Birch, about how far would you have to go to drive to find somewhere like this, and he couldn't give me an answer because he did not know. There is no other place like this, especially anywhere that is local. It truly is unique. It's surrounded by mangroves, native grasses, well-established gum trees. You see hundreds of birds there all the time, whether they be migratory birds that live local in the area. It's unique in beauty, unique in diversity, unique in location, and also unique in what it can offer. So I do have a bit more about the importance of this dam on an environmental level, but something also that I feel strongly about, and I'd really like to get this message across, is that it's not just for the environment that I'm here campaigning for this and saving this dam. It's also for the community. I love Shoreline. I love Redland Bay. My daughter has started at the new Shoreline School. Thank you very much. It is absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful place. Most of her peers and families at that school are members of the Shoreline Development. And her friends are already living in the Shoreline houses and are worrying about what losing that dam might mean to my daughter and her peers and the other members who live in that community. And I'd just like to quickly read you what it says on the Shoreline Master Plan. So this is on their website right now. And this is in quotation, so this is their exact words: an antidote to chaos, a place that is still deeply connected to everything that is important. Here you can take in the expansive views of Moreton Bay, the sounds of birds flocking to the bush, the smell of salt air, the sensation of sea breeze, the shade of towering fig trees, a harmonious blend of nature and neighbourhood where boardwalks and adventure playgrounds make the most of their natural settings. So these homes and lots are still selling now. This is what it says right now on their website: deeply connected to everything that is important, the sounds of birds, harmonious blend of nature. There's nothing harmonious about destroying these ecosystems that are there. And making the most of these natural settings. And I'm asking you, please, for all that is right, don't let them fill these dams in. Don't let them take away what nature has created. And it is not easy to recreate these dams. These are decades in the making that these ecosystems and species have decided to call this their home. We're talking about 10,000 people at the moment who are going to be living in Shoreline, and the people who are told that they will be seeing and hearing birds, people who are told that they will be in a harmonious blend of nature, people who have bought these homes because of these very promises. And do you want to know what the best part is as well? This dam is already here. We already have this nature. We don't need to do anything to it. It doesn't need extra huge funding of development. It doesn't need to be, engineered. People can experience this right now. This dam is a unique ecosystem that we need to protect for our community to enjoy and improve the lives for years to come. Shoreline talks about boardwalks, and you can imagine a boardwalk through these interconnected dams, but it could be a spectacular place. And you will have a chance to make that happen. But this will not happen if these dams get filled in. It will not happen if instead of something beautiful, unique and important, it is replaced with dirt, filled in and lost. On your webpage, the council states that the fundamental role of a councillor is to serve the interests of their community as a whole, and you have a real chance here. 10,000 people whose lives you will impact directly, and tens of thousands more who will visit from outside the shore development. Do not let developers change the rules just to squeeze in a few extra houses. Do not lose what we cannot afford to. Do not be remembered as the members who do not act. Be remembered as members who gave us something that will last a lifetime. Be remembered as those who stood for what was right. Please, from the bottom of my heart and the 10,000 other hearts that will soon live in Shoreline, please serve our community's best interest and protect these dams. Thank you.
If I may, Councillor, just ask for a 5-minute extension so that Nadine can provide her impact statement. Move Councillor Edwards, seconded Councillor Mitchell. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Over to you. I won't read you the drill again, but just name, suburb.
Thank you very much, Mayor Karen Williams, and thank you, councillors and everyone here to take the time. I know it's been a very long meeting, obviously, for good reason. I'd just like to acknowledge I'm Nadine Bray from Cleveland, and I'm here to discuss today as a neighbour of the community of Danielle Street for the development that's happened beside us as a neighbour of Lot 22 Danielle Street. I'm actually speaking on behalf of my husband today, Adrian Bray, who cannot be here. He's actually emergently overseas for work. So I am reading out a statement from him, so please bear with me. I'm sorry to read from notes. If you just picture this beside you at Danielle Street. So we refer to it as the Tower of Terror for very good reason. Unfortunately, a very poorly written clause in the law has thrown our world into complete chaos. The physical for the residential block, which takes over 76% coverage, has had a profound effect on our family, our community, and the Redland City Council at large. That statement alone has met with shock and disbelief every building inspector, every town planner, private certifier in the state of Queensland, and every one of those people have said how you can't do that, yet it has happened. The building itself has created wind corridors, stopped our self-sustainable solar energy. For 15 years, we have lived in this home. For 24 years we've lived in this place. It shades our area, it's reducing our light, it's stealing and invading severely our privacy. We have lost sight of sunlight from our house in the backyard, which used to be, this is a low residential area in a low density area, and the built form was and is residents who own their properties. We have a lovely community. We have quite a number of people all the time who walk their dogs, walk their elderly family members up and down our street. That's all stopped since this construction has commenced. We have had to protect ourselves. We've had to purchase cameras for legal reasons to protect our family, and we have had disgusting behaviour from Key Spec Construction Proprietary Limited, and also contractors and subcontractors. We have been blocked, our pathways have been blocked, our driveways have been blocked. My daughter has not been able to get to work. I work in healthcare as a frontline worker. I could not get to work. We've had such an enormous impact where these people are continuously causing angst and anxiety to our family and to the entire street and community at large. We have had abuse from construction workers on a regular basis for 24 months. This could be you. The despicable builder has attempted to abuse us in front of our front door, defamed us, made excuses and complaints. We've had several moments where the builder has actually attempted to intimidate and frighten our daughter and our family, even in our own home. As a repeat offender, most recent instance, literally over 2 weeks ago, fencing was removed and it was then reiterated.
Just a word of advice not to maybe mention names that might...
Beg your pardon, sorry.
That's okay, just to be...
Please retract that.
Protecting you as opposed to...
This builder has been a repeat offender with these incidents. Even over 2 weeks ago, we've had fences removed from the construction site itself, and then they've engaged and put some new ones up just recently. So, they've trespassed our property. They have not had any notice. We have not received one single documented piece of request to attend on our property. There was not a single piece of evidence asked by the company to actually commence their works. This development has just continued in our street for these 24 months with no communication, no authority from anybody. The video evidence we've had is ongoing. There's quite a lot of this. I'll try to summarise. Sorry, apologies for the reading. Our families have lived in Redland City for over 3 generations. We do not want to be intimidated by faceless people who are criminals in our eyes. They are attempting to rot loopholes and destroying the community values and impacting the environment in which we live. The impact of traffic in this quiet residential street has been immense. There was a huge impact to residential parking throughout the entire construction, which is now currently paused. But the provision they have provided is 1 disabled park for 6 disabled people, 2 standard parks for up to 7 staff a day. The streetscape will never be the same. The owners are attempting to erect a solid wall on the boundary, and we've spent thousands personally already on legal to defend our own property and our own home, which we should not have had to do. The laws should not have to require us to defend. This ill-conceived clause has left us no privacy and the legal quandary that we're only allowed to erect a 2-metre high screening, yet the 12 windows that look onto our property at a height and an angle which is completely ineffective in a low residential, low density zone. We've had real estate evaluations that identify that we've lost at least over $50,000 in comparison to other properties in our street just because of this existence of this construction. We have followed up with the impact of our solar It's going to cost us over $5,000 to move our solar. We've lost quite a percentage of our solar now due to the impact of the shading of this monstrosity that lives beside us. This bill means we have no confidence in building houses in Queensland or to purchase in the community, which we have lived all our life. This multi-storey unit block can be built anywhere, anytime, state, and a block less than 700 metres. Surely everyone needs to understand how important that is. This could be you. You could be living right beside this, just like I am at the moment, and our family. On a personal level, we have been drawn into conflict with some of the councillors in relation to this, and it has been very difficult to get any support from in relation to provision of support from, I won't go into comments there. Sorry, I might leave that out, beg your pardon.
Yeah, just advise you there's anything on the public
quick,
record.
sorry.
Yeah.
Our children no longer wish to live in a community in which you follow the law and your family home and surrounding neighbourhoods and values are destroyed.
Nadine, I'm conscious that we've given you 5 minutes.
Okay.
You might need to wrap up.
I would just like to ask in conclusion, please, I would like to ask you to put a stop to this injustice and right the wrongs of careless legislation that was introduced by none less than the current Premier himself. We utter our frustration that could there be a debate for the councillors to continue to look into this development at Lot 22 down Earl Street and to work harder to recruit to try and resolve the impact this development has had on the community and on Redland City at large. The legislation is harming our health, the community, and it should be stopped. There's obviously so much more we'd like to say, and thank you for taking the time. I know you've been extension here already, but also we'd like to hopefully provide more information as required. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mrs. Bray. Councillors, can I just now ask for a motion that we resume standing orders? Moved Councillor Tulty, seconded Councillor Mackenzie. Those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Berridge is absent. Okay, councillors, petitions. I think we have a petition to be presented. Councillor Tulty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As mentioned by some of the speakers today, I have a petition from residents. Do I need to get a seconder before I read it?
Sorry, just have you got a motion there?
Yep, yes. The petition is of an operational nature and be received and referred to the Chief Executive Officer for consideration.
Maybe read the petition, the recent petition.
Okay. Councillors, the petition says that Council is asking Council to preserve 2 vital bird habitats, Orchard and Scenic Road dams in the Shoreline Estate. Redland Bay to create an environmental park for the community and wildlife. These dams are host to more than 120 bird species, including migratory shorebirds and unique birds such as Latham's snipe and pink-eared ducks. They are currently under threat of being filled in and covered with houses, a sporting field, or a narrow wildlife corridor. And if I may, I was in Orchard Road looking at this particular dam last week, and we currently have a other change on the original shoreline proposal, which proposes to make changes to the original plan. So this will all be under review, and I'm personally very supportive of looking at this very closely.
So just the motion, Councillor, then, if you've read the...
that this is of an operational nature and be received and referred to the Chief Executive Officer for consideration. And whilst the, if I can just note, whilst this is the regulatory response to a petition, the fact that this is subject to a development application means that this won't be the only consideration of this matter. I think it's important.
So moved by Councillor Tulty, seconded by Councillor Boglari. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. And Councillor Berridge is Councillors, I haven't been advised of any motion to alter the order of business, seeing there's really only 2, and one of them's
3.
Oh, 2.
Oh, with the mirror on the left, sorry.
2 left. Thank you for your comments. So the first item is 13.1, which is just an update of the financials. So if I could just get Councillor Edwards for the final time to move that, and seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Edwards?
This is basically the financials haven't been prepared in time for. There's not enough time this month to have them prepared. But Councillor Hughes advised me that there is a slide presentation or something regarding the financials.
Slideshow.
I haven't been advised.
Councillor Hughes, you approached me before the meeting. You said there was something.
Oh, right, yes. I'll allow you to do that. Just, Councillor, are you happy for Councillor Hughes to speak to the item? Councillor Hughes? Sorry.
Thank was on. Oh, my apologies. I thought it was on. Thank you, Councillor Edwards and Mayor Williams. I just wanted to take a very short 2 minutes, hopefully, to just give a very general wrap of our 4-year term as we finalise today. Here is our finances in a quick snapshot, and working with Deborah Corbett-Hall, our Chief Financial Officer, we've double-checked these figures. They're just literally out of our monthly reports. There's on the screen our actual current revenue, what it was in 2020 at 203. I'm going to go through all the numbers. And at 2024, there's the increase, the actual operating expenditure where we were at 2020, and having a look at where we are at 2024, and there's our increase, our actual capital expenditure where we were, and look at this, having a look at the actual capital expenditure where we are today, and that is, we've more than doubled getting our work out the door to our city in producing our capital expenditure. The actuals, we can see what our actual base was in 2020, and then we can see our actual base where we are today. Of our city, we were a $2.6 billion city 4 years ago. We are a $3.1 billion city today, and that is our community assets. There's a snapshot very, very quickly, and I just have a couple of bullet points. And I thought it was nice to bring it up on the screen so that you can follow very quickly. I just don't think we can go past this 4-year term. We've said it a million trillion times, COVID, and I've just recently had my second bout, as you know. It just can't be underestimated. From the lockdown, maintaining critical assets, the supply chain delays, the cost increases, etc., etc. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but it shouldn't be underestimated. The fluctuation of the RBA, which is the Reserve Bank of Australia, because I always bang on about our acronyms, at the cash rate, which has impacted on councils' interest rate, our income. Again, something that we really need to highlight and focus on what that impact has been. Depreciation of our community assets, something that as a new councillor didn't really quite understand the impact that had, but this last year alone, over $70 million. Our grant funding, we had the initial increases at the start of our term, and we understand ongoing delays with implementation, but to the current forecast, we've got decreases in our critical grant funding programs. So I don't think we can take that as read. What was at the start of this term is not what the future could look like in that sphere. Changes to council sustainability measures. That was a really good news story. We finally, I think after my 8 years, we got there, thank you. And council's capital program is at a historical high, with the challenges of COVID still evident across all aspects of delivery of the program. This is a really good news story. I was very sceptical about, and I used my arm one day and said, how much can we put on top of this capital program? We've all been greatly worried about it, and I just wanted to highlight that we are actually seeing the delivery of this program. And we've been told many, many times, Queensland Treasury team, they're regularly advising us that our borrowings here in this city, we are very low. And personally, I'm thankful that Redland City Council's annual report has been updated to include a highlighted section that shows the landfill remediation charge in general revenue. That's money collected, money spent, and so importantly, money retained in reserve on a yearly basis, understanding that the landfill remediation separate charge is collected and is recorded as a commitment in our annual report. That was just a very brief snapshot of 4 years, and I would
Thank you, Councillor.
thank you. And if our
Thanks.
CFO would like to speak.
Thanks, Councillor Hughes. Any speakers against? Can I just raise, this is just something that happens because of inputs and outputs, but I always find it a little amusing that we're ahead of our budget, our capital expenditure by $12 million, and yet it's recorded as unfavourable. So I know it's a computer kind of input-output issue, but Deb, do you want to comment to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity. So, yeah, what we try and say is that if we are ahead of budget in revenue, that is deemed favourable because there's more revenue, it's community revenue. And if we are behind, ironically, in expenditure, it's if we're behind, it's deemed as favourable because we haven't spent the money. But of course, it's more than that because we want to see the delivery. So that's why it's deemed unfavourable because it's over spend. But as we know, as you've talked in this chamber many times, you made the decision to say, let's load up the program, let's deliver. We heard you at the special budget meeting last calendar year, and that's exactly what the organisation's doing under the CEO. So yes, it does look a wee bit counterintuitive, Madam Mayor, but trust us, look at the figures as opposed to the, as you said, the variance analysis.
So with that, I think I said this last meeting, but I don't ever recall, and I might be wrong because, my memory fades after 20 years, but I don't ever recall our capital works being delivered so efficiently, being ahead of schedule in effect. And I know there's a big project out there which is a great legacy for our city with Wellington Panorama. But I just wanted to put on record that that's an organisational achievement, a team effort. Congratulations to the CEO. There's obviously been a great deal of work behind the scenes over many years to get to a point where we're delivering on the mark, and in this case, above that. So thank you to all involved, and I think it's a great credit to you, Deborah, as well, keeping the thumb on the organisation to make sure our expenditure and revenue is where it is at the moment with a great cash reserve. Okay, well, if there's no other, I'll go back to Councillor Edwards to sum up, if that's okay, Councillor Hughes, although you spoke to it. There's no other questions or speakers. So
nothing further to add.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? That's unanimous. Okay, councillors, the next item is 13.2. It's just a standard process that we do for local laws. Have mover and seconder for that. Move Councillor Mitchell, seconder Councillor Boglari. Would you like to speak to Councillor Mitchell?
Just very brief, Madam Mayor. The report is to note the officer is going to continue investigating implications of some of the amendments to the state's Transport and Other Legislation Amendment Act 2024. But what it's about is the personal mobility devices and scooters and various things that are currently precluded on some areas of our city, and that on the surface seems completely at odds about where the future of transportation is going. There's an incredible choice of these devices coming onto the market, and people want to use them of all abilities, but people also want to be safe. Pedestrians want to be safe as well, and the law, as it often is sort of behind the reality, and it's changing. So the officers have wisely said that because the state is moving to change some of this legislation, we're not sure where it will go. We're hoping it's a great enabler of both opportunity but also of safety. And so we need to sort of let it sit on the table and come back to it because the world is changing as we move forward. Thank you.
Any speakers against? Quick comment.
Thank you. I was just also welcoming further investigation because I've noticed that some of our neighbouring councillors are actually pulling back now on what they previously had allowed due to implications. So I think it's a very wise move for the officers to further investigate, as Councillor Mitchell said, while the state gets the regulations and then up to speed with it.
There's no other comments. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Berridge is absent. Councillors, there are no more reports other than a confidential that I'm been advised of. No notice of motion, no urgent business. Are we needing to go into confidential for discussion? Okay, well, if that's the case, can I have a mover and seconder for the resolution in regards to the court update? Move Councillor Mitchell, seconded Councillor Hughes. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. And with that, can I just end this meeting once again, thanking everyone for their friendship and support over the last 20 years, although the years that you've been here, that I've been here, and I wish the city the best with the next term of council, and obviously, the great opportunities that lies ahead of us. So with that, I'll close the meeting at 11:32.